world moves fast. Your workday? Even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
The Ozarks, it's more than a place, it's a feeling. Here at Silver Dollar City, it's the feeling we get from creating, discovering, and putting on a show. It's that powerful spark we get from exploring something old and experiencing something new. Plan your visit to America's #1 theme park today. Silver Dollar City, the heart of the Ozarks.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
To How Are the Podcast. It's Gavin. You join us for a Saturday morning news roundup. We haven't done one of these in a few weeks for obvious reasons. Been quite a lot going on with the team, but given that it's in the international break right now, and we've also milked the derby dry, or to a point dry. I think we're still probably going to talk quite a bit about the derby, but either way, we have talked a lot about the derby this week. Thought it'd be a nice chance to just slot a news pod in, and there's plenty to talk about, as I said. So first up, we've got Andrew with us. Hello, mate.
Hello, you doing okay?
Yes, mate. Very good. Very, very good. Looking forward to the weekend?
No, there's no Sunderland football.
There is.
Just
I mean, there is, but there's no. We're going to get on to the Sunderland football that's on this weekend.
I
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I deserve being pulled up for that because I have got tickets. I'm actually looking forward to that game. What a dreadful start to the pod.
That's a great start, what you're talking about. Also with us is an old friend of the pod. It's Connor Bromley. Hello, mate.
Hello, I am also going to the Lasses game, and I'm very excited for it, unlike Andrew, who forgot about it.
I think we should start with that, actually. Why not? We're all going, I think. I haven't been to see Sunderland women play for a long time, but I'm going to go along and support them this weekend. On Sunday, they play against Newcastle United women at the Stadium of Light, and I'm going to take my little girl, I think, for the first time, if everything goes well. So she'll probably last about 5 minutes, but she might enjoy the fan zone beforehand, and she might actually really surprise us. But given she's 3-year-old, I'm not holding out any hope of her sitting through a 90-minute game. But yeah, the Lasses are taking on our nearest and dearest. So to follow up on last week's derby, we're hoping for another win against the Mags. And as you said, Connor, you're going. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, the club had reached out about, I think, content creators going, and I thought, well, we'll make a deal of it. So me and Taff, who I normally do my YouTube without going down, we're going to make a video. So if you want to be in the video, I think we'll be in Southern City Centre like 11:30. So pop along. I think we're at the Wetherspoons, one of the Wetherspoons. We'll iron it out. But yeah, we'll be around with the camera. So if you want to be on and talk about the Lasses, then come join us. But I'm looking forward to it. I haven't really covered the Lasses since I worked at the club. Like, it was like Kira Ramshaw and stuff were there. That was my last abiding memory of covering them. And it's something that I watch, like the YouTube highlights, and I watch the games when they're on YouTube because there's something to put the live streams on. But there's just so much football, men's football, in terms of Sunderland, that it's difficult to keep across both teams. But yeah, I'm hoping that there's a good crowd, and it's £8 to get in for adults and £2 for kids. So there's no reason why people shouldn't pop along, especially since there's no Premier League or Championship this weekend.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it, Andrew? And it's just another chance to hopefully rub it in the Mags' faces, isn't it? I mean, I know it's slightly different. I think Newcastle women are doing a little bit better than Sunderland this season, but regardless, you would like to think that given the result last week, it's probably put a little bit of extra edge on this one, hasn't it? The fact that, both teams will probably want to either try and match, in Sunderland's case, what the men did last week, or in Newcastle's case, avenge what the men couldn't do. So it should make for a good occasion.
Yeah, well, it'll add that extra little bit of edge, and when I was there last season at the stadium when we played Newcastle Women, the fans were all mixing quite freely and it was quite good-natured. But after a week of stick and giving it to the mags, it might be a little bit more needle. You're right, mind as well. I hadn't realised Newcastle kind of seemed to have. They must have kind of like just slipped under the radar because their women's team are a lot higher in the league than I'd realised. I thought they were struggling, but they must have pulled a bit of form together or something.
Aye. Well, if anybody did want to go, then as Connor said, you can pick up tickets pretty cheap. I think you can even buy tickets on the day. Ticket offices open from 12 all the way up until kick-off. Turnstiles open at 12:30, so gives people plenty of chance to get in. I think it's a 2:00 kick-off, isn't it? So you've got a couple of hours in the ground, but there is a fan zone taking place in the East Stand concourse. First 300 fans through the turnstile can grab a free slice of Domino's pizza, apparently, which is decent. Activities and attractions include, they've got a live DJ entertainment on, face painting for the kids and hair tinsel. Fans Museum are taking a display down to showcase the derby, the history of the derby. There's going to be match-worn shirts there for kids to try on, and other exhibitions and things. Foundation Light are doing some games for the kids. It's been designated as a Her Game 2 initiative game as well. So I think they're going to be down there and people can learn about what that is. And plenty of other stuff. I think there's going to be a women's supporters group stall there. I think you can even buy in the club shop before the game the women's shirts with the proper branding on, which I don't think has been the case before. So there's quite a lot. And you can also have a drink in the stands, which will be a novelty at the stadium. Like, unless you've ever been to a concert at the stadium, like, you've probably never had a pint watching a game of football. I think maybe for the Rugby World Cup last year, you'll have been able to. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very different experience and atmosphere. And the big draw for me is being able to take my daughter, and it's just going to be quite easy for her to take it all in. It's not quite as intimidating as a Premier League game where there's 40-odd thousand there. Unless people surprise us and there are people might listen to this and think, right, we're going, and then there might be another 40,000 fans in the ground. But that should be canny. I'm looking forward to it. And like I say, people should definitely get down, try it. It's a little bit different, isn't it? It's something I've never really done before, but I know you go quite a bit, Andrew. So get yourselves along. Anyways, moving on ever so slightly, and I know we're recording this late on Friday night, but there's been quite a lot has gone on in terms of internationals over the last few days. I mean, as we record this, Omar Alderete starts for Paraguay against Greece. I think Granit Xhaka's in the Switzerland team. I think, are they taking on Germany? Maybe I can't remember who they're playing. Eliezer Mayenda, though, that's the big one that I wanted to come to. He scored a great goal for Spain in their win over Cyprus and also got an assist, and probably should have had more as well. I mean, I know you've not seen it, Andrew, so I'll come to you quickly, Connor, but it was a great goal, wasn't it? And people should dig that out. I think the club tweeted it. But I just like seeing our players perform internationally. I saw that stat that was going around the other day where I think Sunderland were in the top 10 clubs across Europe when it came to international call-ups in this round of fixtures, which I guess kind of shows how well we're doing, really. You know, what players, when we were in League One, it was like, it was probably a handful of players got called up, maybe Tom Flanagan or something, I don't know. But good to see Mayenda doing well, good to see players called up in general, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we got 14, which is a lot. Our friends up the road have 13, which somebody pointed out to me in the week. Yeah, because I was saying how much better their squad was. We have an extra international. But yeah, Mayenda, in terms of him, his goal was very, very good. It came to him sort of on the edge of the box and he just blasted it in the bottom corner. So a good goal from him. And then his assist, which I'd seen, it was a typical Mayenda dribble where he carries the ball for a while. And he's a player that I really, really like him. And I think that sort of similar to what we've seen with Chris Rigg in recent weeks, where it felt like Rigg hadn't really, I'm not saying he hadn't acclimatized to the Premier League, but it felt like he was being really sort of nursed through this period. And then he's came in these last couple of games and he looks like a different player. He looks like he's ready for the Premier League. I think we've seen with Mayenda, we've seen really good glimpses. I'm just waiting for him to get that solid run of 5 to 10 games in a row where we see him develop, because I think he is a Premier League player. I do think that he can play at this level. We just haven't necessarily given him the chances. But again, similar to Rigg, they're so young that these players, you forget when you're watching them, because we've been watching like Rigg and Mayenda for a few years. you just forget that that's still so young. I mean, what, Riggs 18, I think Mayenda's 20.
Yeah.
It's absolutely like crazy, and they're doing so well. I mean, if you bought these players off the market abroad for like 20 million quid and you saw them, you'd be like, oh, get in, they look exciting. A bit like Talby. But we've obviously got accustomed to them. So yeah, I've been really impressed with Mayenda, and it looks like he's had a good start at the international break.
Yeah, I'm impressed with my end, Andrew, and it's just I think Connor's right. I think you're waiting for him to get a proper chance, but it's going to be tough, isn't it? I mean, Connor mentioned there about Rig. Riggs came in on the right hand side, and he's going to start against Tottenham. You'd think. Up top, Brian Brobby's just irreplaceable, isn't he? So I guess with my ender, it's going to be a case of when you get off the bench, take your chances. And I think importantly though, he is still very young, and we forget that. Like he's in the Spain under-21s team, and you're like, he feels like he's been there forever, but he hasn't. He's still really, really young. So yeah, I'm hoping he gets a few more chances soon. And going away with his country and scoring goals and impressing is going to do him no harm in that regard.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's great, like you say, to see these lads going away, and they might be trying different training techniques. They might be learning different aspects of the game. Their international coaches might have different tactics. So it's good for their development, good for their confidence as well. And yeah, Mayenda probably does want more minutes in this run-in. Whether he can get them or not remains to be seen. There's senior players ahead of him. But that's no bad thing if he's coming off the bench and feeling like he's got to take that chance and grab any opportunity he does get. I think Connor makes a really good point. If in the summer we got linked with some Spanish wonder kid who was scoring goals and creating goals for the Spanish youth side, you'd be over the moon. You'd be like, oh, great, get him in. Well, we've already got him. He's already there on our books. And he's done well so far this season. He's shown plenty of potential. And it's just, if you want to be successful in a Premier League club, you've got to bide your time, because you're not going to find minutes easy to come by.
That's it, yeah. And, you've got to look across the span of the leagues, really, and just see how many young players aren't getting chances. Like, we are really good as a club of doing that. I mean, another player who's away on international duty, Melker Elborg, like, you look at his journey, barely played for Malmo, and you know what I mean, before he came here. I think his best run was in sort of European games and stuff like that, and had a handful of cup games, and then comes to Sunderland, and because of the injury to Roofs, is straight into the Premier League. So it's like, you've just got to be ready. I think that's the main thing, and not just for young players, really, for older players as well. You look at Luke O'Neill and the performances he's put in recently. When I think, was the Newcastle game his second or third start? Can't remember. I think maybe his third start in the Premier League.
Second.
It's just crazy, really. You think he's getting through 90 minutes of games and could probably go on and on if you asked him to. You just got to stay ready. I suppose that, particularly 09, he's the example to everybody, really, of just how to prepare for games. You might not be needed for a month, but when you are needed, you need to be ready for it, because if you're not, you'll be straight back out of the team. And I think Rig's another one. Rig looks ready, as you said, Connor. Moving along ever so slightly, Trey Hume. Don't know if you just picked up on this. Northern Ireland going out of the World Cup playoffs at the hands of the funny one for me was the fact that Tonali was the goal scorer for Italy. This after he was ruled out of the derby, but all of a sudden, sort of 3-4 days later, he's starting for Italy in a really important game and scoring goals. Just found that hilarious. Found the meltdown hilarious. And I know I said we'd stop gloating about the derby, but you can't help it, can you, when you say stuff like that? But yeah, I guess a shame for Trey Hume. It might be a different result if Ballard had been fit, because you know how good he is. He's important to us, but for Northern Ireland, they haven't got a great amount of quality, have they? So him being missing has probably had an effect there. But there's plenty of other internationals going on over this weekend. Probably by the time this goes out in the morning, we'll have dated it. I mean, I'm looking now. Talby's Morocco play tonight. I said Alderete before, Netherlands, so you've got Broby and Hertrauder potentially playing. I said Xhaka before. You've got Habib Diarra playing on Saturday afternoon for Senegal against Peru. There's various others. Wilson Isidore could make his debut for Haiti this weekend, which is pretty cool for him, considering he's hummed and hawed about whether he wanted to declare for them or not. And Yeah, good, but good for him. It'd be great to see Isidore just take his chance. I'm talking about other players kind of taking their opportunities like Mayenda and stuff. If Isidore goes away on international duty and scores a load of goals, that's going to do his confidence wonders.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, sorry, I'll jump. Sorry. Okay, so Isidore. I think that game's getting played behind closed doors as well. Weirdly, for Isidore, I think it was an issue with
Is
the
it
pitch or
being?
something.
Well, it won't be in Haiti, will it?
No, it was in Canada.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
game, and it's been. I think they had to move it behind closed doors. I think with Isidore, I feel like his time at Sunderland's probably coming to an end. That's the sense I get. I think Mayenda's ahead of him in the pecking order. Bromley's obviously just in his own pecking order. I mean, he's got his own by himself. He's that good. I just don't see Isidore sticking around for very long, which is a shame because I really, really like him. But it just don't think he really fits for how we play right now. The other thing with Trey Eden was, I think he was captain for Northern Ireland. So that's like a big bonus, having two. We've now got Xhaka and Hugh, who are captain in their countries, which is pretty wild to think of it. And yeah, I think hopefully Isidore can get on form because, we know how good he can be. And obviously it'd be really good for our value of him in the summer. I don't know what the club would expect to get if they sell him as we kind of expect him to. But if you can catch a little bit of form towards the end of the season, an impact off the bench. If you remember at the start of the season, that's what he was doing. He came out against Brentford and scored. He came out against West Ham and scored. And we were kind of thinking, right, he's a super sub. But it's dwindled a little bit for him. And I can't remember the last time he even got minutes on the pitch. It just feels like he's not really been getting any sort of game time since November, December. It just really feels like he's fell out of favour, which is strange considering he was a Le Bris signing, wasn't he? He was a player that he really, really wanted and he was so important for us. But you look at his form, his first season, he was brilliant in the first half of the season, poor in the second half of the season. I think he did have mitigating circumstances. Did his father die last season? I think in the second half of the season. And this season, it's kind of been the same. His form in the first half was very good, and the second half, he's dropped off. So I don't know if that's a mentality issue, if he just struggles to keep it consistent over a full season. But yeah, I hope he finds his form, even if it's not at Sunderland. I hope he finds his way because I think he's a top lad.
Yeah, Andrew.
He's definitely a likable lad, and it was nice to see at the weekend when we won, even though he didn't come on off the bench, he was still enjoying the celebrations. He still seemed part of it. I think this year, hasn't he had a new baby? So again, that might be impacting him. But if he goes away and gets a confidence boost and comes back, I take the point that he might not be at Sunderland for much longer. But in the meantime, if he comes back and he's firing again, that can only be good for us. It's great to be talking about our three striking options and thinking they're all internationals. I mean, I can't imagine many times in our history where that's been the case before. On the subject of internationals, though, and what have you, you've both mentioned Hume. Chris, Johnny, and I have recorded a pod that will be released in the next few days, and we have a little bit of a joke about Tonali and his amazing powers of recovery, how he was unavailable one day and then suddenly he's fit and raring to go. For Hume, I'm gutted for the lad. It would have been an amazing honour for him to play in the World Cup for his country. But the pod that we recorded, we were talking about highlights of the last 12 months. And every single game we spoke about, Hume played in. And I just think what a journey that lad is on at the moment. He's gone from League One to Championship to Premier League. He's now captain in his international side. You've just got to give him so much credit. The work he puts in and the quality he's got. And I think he's underrated as a Sunderland player. You kind of take him for granted. But just what a brilliant story and what a season he's having. To come from his background in terms of experience and be bossing it and playing in different positions in the Premier League, great player. And had he gone to the World Cup, I think he would not have looked out of place at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded seeing him and Ballard in the World Cup, I've got to say. That's going to be the big thing for me watching the World Cup is just how many Sunderland players are involved, because I'll be honest, I struggle with international tournaments, I struggle to stay really invested in them, and it's normally the Sunderland players being involved that keeps that, I think it was it the last one? It was Jewison Bennett playing for Costa Rica. And I watched them games. I don't even know if I watched the England games. I wasn't bothered. But there's loads can still go on with regards to the World Cup, which is why all these players are involved in games. And, by probably Tuesday night, we should know pretty much which of our players are going to be at the World Cup or somewhere down the line. I think Noah Sadiqi's playing in it. They've got one, haven't they? I think they're playing somebody who's had to play a game to get that far, if I remember rightly. Can't remember who it is now. I'm just looking now. It's they're playing one of the Caribbean sides, I think. So
Jamaica.
Is it Jamaica? Did they get through? Did they? Right. So it'll be Jamaica on Monday night. So they'll know if they're going to be going to the World Cup as well. So yeah, it's all great. I would love to see all of them playing at the World Cup. I know normally I'm not a fan of international football, and generally I would like our players to just be available for Sunderland, but you've got to be like proud of the lads we've got as well. Like, I know they've been stripped of it now, but when Senegal won the AFCON, it was a moment of pride for everybody when we got to announce Habib Diarra as a winner, and it really improved his performance that day. You could just tell he was right on it in that game. So yeah, plenty coming up with regards to internationals. Just before we head off for a quick break, I just wanted to mention I think the club have posted this big interview with Granit Xhaka, which I think went out on TV ahead of the derby. I feel like I've seen clips of it, but I just wanted to touch on it because I don't think we've really mentioned it on any pod this week. But if people haven't seen it, you can dig it out. The club have got it on their YouTube channel, and it's basically Xhaka just talking about his upbringing and basically what makes him the person that he is. And he gets quite emotional, and talking about the hardships that him and his family went through. His mum and dad having to work long shifts just to keep a roof over their heads, and him and his brother basically having to bring themselves up because of that. And it's just such an interesting insight into the reason why Granit Xhaka is the way that he is. But just kind of quickly with you, Andrew, I think we already kind of knew, didn't we, with Xhaka, what kind of man he was. But clearly, when you think about him as a footballer, you take away the fact he's just a quality footballer. The characteristics we associate with him: hard work and determined, a leader. You can clearly see where this all comes from in his upbringing, can't you?
Oh yeah, I mean it's brilliant that he wants to honour his parents and kind of pay them back for all the hard work they did bringing him up. I think they both worked long hours and what have you. It's lovely that he talks about his family and he wants to make his kids proud of him, and it's great. He's not some daft lad who's just here for the cash and who just takes things for granted. He seems pretty grounded. He seems like an honest, genuine bloke. And without wanting to be too sentimental, I think that's what Sunderland fans want to see themselves as a lot of the time, and they want the club to be, grounded and part of a family, and the important things in life to a lot of people are Sunderland AFC and your family. He represents a lot of that, and he takes it out onto the pitch. He kind of looks after the younger lads, and he seems to fit in brilliantly, and I'm pleased he's loving it here because we're loving having him, and he's just such a pleasure to watch.
Absolutely, and Connor, when you think about, I think often about and he's been asked about this recently, Xhaka, about the fact that he came to Sunderland. Like, a lot of people were like, "Why? Why would you go to Sunderland?"
Me included.
Yeah, I think we all were at a point. But still, people are still asking those questions. But when you think about where he's came from, he's a very humble person, clearly. I know he's got millions in the bank now, and he's set for life, and he lives a very comfortable life away from football and all that. But that hasn't always been the case. And given that background that he's got, it shouldn't surprise anyone that he actually kind of gets turned on by hard work. It's like, quite like the sound of that. I quite like going to a newly promoted team and basically just being given free rein to impose my ideals on my teammates and stuff. I think you build up a better picture of why that actually happened when you hear about who he is, because it is easy, isn't it, to just think of footballers as like, oh, they're all prima donnas and they're all flash and they all drive around in massive cars and they wouldn't know humility if it hit them in the face. But I think genuinely Xhaka is a really decent person. which I suppose explains why he came here in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be a perfect fit for Sunderland. He fits like a glove. I think he epitomizes the things we like in a player. He's hard hitting, but he's a cultured player. We love players that have really good technical qualities, but accompany that with the physicality and the aggression, and he has all of that. And when you watch, I mean, I find these interviews when he does them, I have to watch them all the way through because I think he's such a good talker, and I think you can just tell he's somebody that has matured and knows exactly who he is, what he represents, and what he does. And I think that's why we love him so much at Sunderland. And it's interesting because when you talk about newly promoted teams, I've talked about this on other videos that I've done. Like, I look at if Middlesbrough get promoted, and I'm like, right, okay, how do Middlesbrough stay up? It's like, well, if they could sign a Granit Xhaka, and you're like, yeah, but that's never going to happen, is it? Like, what Sunderland were able to do in terms of their recruitment altogether, but just if we look at Xhaka, is like, it's mental. But I think it was just perfect timing that Xhaka was looking for a club like Sunderland where he could, I think it's fair to say we expect him to stay around beyond his playing career. I think he's going to be somebody that presumably, because of the age of our owner, Kirill, if Kirill wants to stay around for the next 40 years, he probably can. So I think Xhaka's going to be here for the long term at Sunderland. He sees himself, I think, moving into some sort of role after this. I think he was looking for a club that fit what his work ethic is. And I think Sunderland as a city, it seems to be that it resonated with him. And that's why it's worked so well. I mean, if we even just talk about his performances on the pitch, in the Derby game, when I see Granit Xhaka starting for Sunderland, I believe that we will probably get something from the game. I don't know how many games we've actually lost with him starting. I can't imagine it's that many this season. We probably lost more without him, considering we probably played without him maybe 7 or 8 times. I would probably guess we've lost 6 of them. Whereas with him, we just seem to be so much more solid. He's just the heartbeat of the club, which is amazing considering he's only been here for like 9 months.
Yeah, and I mean, I could sit here all day talking about Granit Xhaka, Andrew, but I think it is important just to kind of remember the journey we've been on this season, and it's not over yet. And I was thinking about something Connor touched on there about the going into the Derby game. Like, I felt 10 foot taller knowing Xhaka was playing. That's exactly the person you want in your corner when you go into such a big game. So much big game experience. He's done it at bigger clubs than Sunderland and won things and won trophies and just knows how to get the job done and knows how to manage a dressing room. And you just feel so much more at ease with him around, don't you? And, I know we've kind of tongue-in-cheek joked about what could happen this season between now and the end of it. It's not out of the question that we could finish in the top 8. It's not. And the only reason I have that little bit of confidence that we might do it is because of him, if I'm honest. I know there's a lot of other reasons. We've got some great players and we could talk all day about them. But he's the main reason. I look at that team and I go, yeah, Granit Xhaka, he's going to be expecting the best of everyone every single day up until that final game. And, he's played in the biggest competitions. He's going to want to go into a World Cup having left Sunderland in a really good place. And yeah, I just feel so much more confident with him around.
Well, he's so assured, isn't he? And comfortable in himself and confident of his abilities. Never too far, because you can get cocky and that's not a good thing. But yeah, he's so just calm and commanding. And I think that other players around him will look at that and feed off it. We're by no means a one-man team, but he is the linchpin who brings everything together and allows others to be at their best. He's a phenomenal character. I do sometimes wonder, though, do you reckon in the academy at dinner time, him and Luke O'Nien are sat there having their dinner, talking about football still and just being ultra professional and all of this, and the rest of the lads are like, oh God, I might sit somewhere else. I just need 15 minutes just where I can switch off and have a bit of a laugh. And those two are just so they set such high standards of themselves and they seem so ultra focused. It's
interesting.
It's brilliant.
It's interesting though, Andrew, you say that because you've got so many different characters in the squad. I look at Noah Siddiqui, Mayenda, Diarra, the way they all carry off together. they're pissing around half the time, but then when it comes to match day, they're zoned in. Particularly Siddiqui. Like Siddiqui must be the biggest joker in the group, but then in a game, he's on it, and that's the important thing. I think Xhaka he's not from the old school, is he? He's a player who came through in sort of the last 10 years, really, 10, 15 years. So he's not so old school that he would frown upon that behaviour, but he probably knows as well as like a modern forward-thinking coach like Régis Le Bris knows that you've got to also let young players be young men and just make sure they're grounded at the same time. So I think you're kind of touching on something pretty important there. Like we've got a very different mix of characters. I even look like Brian Brobby. I watch him talk in interviews, and even the way he didn't want to stay on the pitch and celebrate with the fans, he just wanted to get down the tunnel in a way. He's quite quiet, clearly, quite a softly spoken bloke. But then when it comes to the game, he's ragging players all over the place, and he's ripping his shirt off and screaming at the Mag fans after scoring. You know what I mean? Like, you've got all these very different people.
How funny was it, his interview after the game where they asked him about the battle with Dan Burn?
Yeah.
I was like, what a guy. What a guy. The thing with Xhaka, though, you just mentioned, in that interview, he talks about how sort of off the pitch he is quite relaxed and funny, and he likes to have a bit of a laugh and a joke. So, like, I think we see the professional, serious Granit Xhaka on the pitch, but I think that's something that it's almost like, do you know, if you've been at school and you've got a teacher who's like really cool and funny and like they'll tell jokes, but sometimes like this has gone too far. Yeah. Everyone needs to settle back down. I feel like that's what Xhaka's like in the dressing room. Like he's having a laugh and a joke, but if you see something too far, he's probably like, no, lads, like we need to get back into to focus mode here. We're gonna have a laugh and a joke, but we need to get the serious stuff done. And I think that relationship in the dressing room, like everyone clearly puts him on a pedestal as the leader. And I think sometimes that's difficult because if you looked at leaders maybe we've had in the past, like for example, and it's no slight on him, but when we gave Lee Cattermole the captaincy in like 2010, he's like 22 years old. How difficult is it for him to command that level of respect when he's got players that are 10 years older? It's probably very, very difficult. Whereas Granit Xhaka, because of his age and everything he's done, nobody in that dressing room is going to disrespect or undermine him because they know and respect what he's done. I think that's why it's so important to have somebody like that at your club. And I just love him, mate. I just love him.
Connor, it's no fluke though, is it? All of these things, like you've talked about how he's the captain. We haven't just given the captaincy on a whim. They've decided that, yeah, this is the right character. And as Gav says, there's a mixture of different personalities here at the club. But again, that's not by mistake. That's by design. We're not just looking now at a player and saying, how many games has he played? How many goals has he scored? The recruitment and the research into these lads, we're making sure that these different personalities are going to work together. And if you're going to come in and rock the boat, you're sharp going to get cleared back out again. It's this side of things are why we can go 1-0 down against Newcastle and then come back. Because the spirit and the attitude and the camaraderie is just important as the talent. And it's clearly something the club have done by design. We haven't just dragged lads in off the street. Everybody has a role and fits in. And between them, they can all be very different, but yet they all still have that same goal. And when it matters, they're all still pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, let's go for a quick break. And then when we come back, there's a few more juicy items to get our teeth into. So we'll see you in a minute.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
Welcome back to How Are the Podcast, and I'm going to start off this second part, Connor, with you and Régis Le Bris, who's been nominated for Manager of the Month. Fans can vote on the club website. I think there's a link there for people to vote for him. Also in the running are Mikel Arteta, Eddie Howe, Fabian Hürzeler and David Moyes. But I mean, I don't expect him to win it, but I think the fact he's even mentioned in the conversation is quite funny to me, because like people were calling for his head a couple of weeks ago after the Brighton game. It kind of shows you, doesn't it, that was such a silly narrative that was being trotted out by people. And I think even and we were talking about this after the derby, really, the way that he sets us up for big games, I don't think I've ever seen a Sunderland manager like it. I don't think I've seen anybody like Régis Le Bris, but the way that he just seems to know what he's doing in these big games, it makes him a very special manager. And yeah, I just think it's the fact that he's been given a bit of recognition probably reminds people of how good he is.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, the talk about Régis' position was absolutely mental. I talked about this on my channel. You guys have talked about it as well, but I kind of get my head around it. The stuff that he's done for this football club, we were 16th in the championship when he took over, and we get all the way up out of the playoffs, and people look at the end of last season and we lost 5 games in a row, and then we get promoted. So for me, that negates that. It was clearly for a reason, and we know how meticulous and how well planned this manager is, as you've just mentioned, how well he plans for games. I believe firmly that it was definitely the plan to have us ready for the playoffs. He didn't care about the results in the games before. I think that was the plan, and then people started going with the narrative of he's a first half of the season manager, but he cannot do it in the second half of the season. And it felt to me like there were sections of the fan base that were almost waiting for it to fail. Like, not because they're not lovers of Sunderland, but because I think we've been conditioned as a fan base maybe to expect the worst. But I look at this Sunderland side and club right now and just think it's completely removed from that one that spent 10 years in the Premier League sacking the manager all the time. And I think we as a fan base need to reset our expectations, because we have been quite trigger happy under this ownership as well. We have went through managers, we've continually cycled through, and I think people just get itchy feet because that's what they used to. They used to form going a little bit bad, and then the manager change happening, and then things getting a little bit better. But for me, I'm firmly behind Régis. I think he's amazing. I think he's a top level manager. I think he's got the potential to be, a Marco Silva level or an Iriola or any of them ones that have been established in the Premier League for years. I think that he's a Thomas Frank when he was at Brentford, and he's got the potential to do that level of job here. And people, I think, forget that when we were in League One, the dream was to become an established Premier League club that wasn't worrying about relegation. And I think we're on that path right now with Régis. And the exciting thing for me is he's doing all of this while not having, I think it's fair to say, the best tools at his disposal. We've got a good defence, we've got a good midfield, but we don't have, I think, the correct wingers to fit into his play. I mean, we definitely need to upgrade certain areas of the team. But he has got the absolute most out of this squad right now to get us to a point where we've got 43 points in March. We are 6 points below Liverpool heading into April. We're not far away from getting into Europe. And I just think maybe people just need perspective. You need to zoom out sometimes. When we do lose games like Port Vale away, it's infuriating, it's frustrating. But you've got to remember how far we've come with Régis at the helm. And, really, he deserves a bit of slack at times when things aren't going 100% right, because we see at the weekend, he played Newcastle and he has a perfect plan and he makes tactical tweaks. What manager would you rather want? At the weekend, Eddie Howe, on 65 minutes, made a planned substitution. He made a planned substitution where he knew on 65 minutes, if the game was a draw, he was going to make those 3 exact substitutions without thinking about how the game was going. And Régis made no substitutions until the 80th minute. And the reason why is because he knew that he would make those changes and therefore we'd get control of the game because our players knew exactly what they were doing. Whereas bringing on Murphy and then Voltamara came off as well and throwing on Willock, it just changing kind of not the system, but just putting new players into the way the system was, which wasn't working, was never going to work. I think that's why you've got to look at it. Eddie Howe's viewed as a top manager. Well, our manager is tactically outclassed him twice. So if you're talking about potentially moving on from who you're going to get better than Régis Le Bris. So yeah, there we are. Ran over. I love Régis.
I think we all love Régis, don't we, Andrew?
Yeah, it's not a surprise to see him getting this nomination because we've seen him do some great things with this squad, and he's been a huge part in turning us from what were we when he took over in the championship? We just finished in the bottom half of the championship, and
I
he's
think Connor said 16th before, didn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, he's taken us along this journey, and I'd always thought in the past to be a successful Sunderland manager, you had to be gruff and old school and all of this type of thing. Well, Le Bris has broken that mold and shown us that actually somebody who's quite calm and in a lot of ways, he's a lot of the things we've said about Xhaka. He's confident in his own decisions. He's self-assured. He doesn't fly off the handle either way it results. He's just steady away. And I actually think for the type of club we are and some of the noise and the attention and the expectation, he handles that very well. He deals with it. He respects it, but it doesn't then impact what he does. And he just very calmly, very quietly gets things right. The players seem to love him. He's been a tremendous fit for us. And like Connor says, it's understandable if you lose a game in the cup and you're disappointed. But to then hear people say, oh, really, we need to move him on, it didn't sit right with me. His overall record for us has been phenomenal. And when it is time for him to move on, I think we'll look back on him as one of our most successful coaches.
Yeah, I've got a question for you both before we wrap this one up. If we finish in the top 8, do you think he should get Premier League Manager of the Season? I don't think if you finish outside that he would, but I think if we finish in the top 8, irrespective of Arteta winning his first Premier League and maybe Keith Andrews potentially be the other one who they finished in the top 8 as well, but surely Régis has to be Manager of the Season if we get into Europe.
I don't even think that's a biased thing to say. And I can understand why people would say Keith Andrews, because, everybody expected Brentford to struggle and he's got no real experience in management. But then he took over an established team and had money to play with because they sold good players and was left a squad of good Premier League players anyways. It's a very different challenge what he took on compared to Le Bris. Le Bris came up having brought us up from the playoffs and had to start from scratch, and everybody was talking about Sunderland as the surprise package for what that first sort of 4 months, really. I know it's only been more recently when we tailed off kind of after the AFCON and stuff. But regardless, I think he's got to be in the conversation regardless, even if we didn't win another game. But I think if we finish in the top 8, I don't know how you can argue anyone else has done a better job. Fair enough, Arteta winning the league is a big thing, but he's winning the league with Arsenal, who've got a squad of unbelievable world-class footballers. It's I don't think that makes you the best manager in the league, personally. I think, and the thing is as well, the managers who do the best job never get the full recognition. It'll never, to me, I remember saying this, it was the EFL Awards, and I think Scott Parker won Manager of the Season. And Burnley did brilliant, don't get us wrong, but they also came down with parachute payments and players who played for them in the Premier League, and, they've done very well and set up very well defensively in the Championship. But I was still saying, how can you not give that accolade to Le Bris after taking Sunderland from 16th, virtually getting promoted with the same squad bar a handful of players, and we didn't spend very much money on those players. And I said it last year, and I just think in them situations when them awards come up, it's never very, very rarely does it happen to be the person who actually deserves it that gets it. But I mean, in my mind, and I don't care if this is me sounding like a biased Sunderland fan, I can't think of anybody who would deserve it more, if I'm honest. But you, Andrew?
Well, I mean, at the very least, I think there's a great argument to say he's certainly Sunderland's best manager in the Stadium of Light era. You know, I think if he was to get us into eighth and into Europe, that would be an improvement on what Reid did, given how tough the Premier League is now. And I'd take that point entirely about, if Arteta wins the league, it's a great achievement by him. But to turn a team who are finishing second and third into a team that then finishes first, is that as much as an achievement as somebody who's taken a team who were tipped to be bottom of the table and making them one of the best teams in the country? I think that's a bigger rate of improvement. And I say this a lot, but a load of outsiders were tipping us to be like breaking record low points totals. And it was pretty clear in the first few weeks that we were in no danger of that. And just the longer the season has gone on, we have continually improved. I know we've had a couple of dips, but we now look to be ending the season strongly. And I would love an award like that to go to somebody a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit out of the box. So somebody like Andrews or Le Bris, who has maybe not won a title, but achieved success of a different kind.
Yeah. Moving on slightly then, and a story I don't want to spend a great amount of time on, if I'm honest, but because we're doing a news pod, we've probably got to talk about this, but it came out earlier today, an interview with Nigel Farage, who has apparently been offered the opportunity to visit Sunderland by Juan Sartori, if you believe what you read. And this has obviously caused a lot of fuss, Andrew, online. Like I said, if I'm honest, I don't want to talk much about this. My opinion is, like, I just don't want to see politics mix with my club at all, because it causes division and causes people to argue in amongst themselves in such a positive week where we've all been firmly on the same page, taking the piss out of Newcastle, focusing on the football, all the things that we should be focusing on. It could be any leader of any party. I just don't really care to see them involved with Sunderland. Obviously, with it being Farage, it's caused a bit of a hoo-ha, hasn't it? And you can kind of understand why.
Yeah. I can understand why, and I can understand why we don't want to talk about it too much. But it's Sunderland have been brought back into the headlines, and we're critical of other clubs. So it's right that we make comment. I mean, I'd forgotten Sunderland could be like this. We used to love a saga back in the day. We couldn't go 2 weeks without something bizarre happening. And it's been such a unifying week, and everybody's been loving Sunderland. So I should have known something was going to come along, something bizarre was going to happen to us. And I don't. It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one because I don't speak for the whole fan base. And as much as I don't like it, he is a democratically elected representative of Parliament. He represents a party that some listeners will vote for, So speaking for me personally, I want him nowhere near my club. I mean, for a start, like you say, it just leaves us open to all sorts of negative PR and brickbats. And I've already seen some of the flack we're getting for it. My irony meter has exploded when I've seen the comments from some Tyne-centric sources, because they're quite happy to haul Sunderland over the coals and then not look at other situations happening.
Look at Edwards. Look at Edwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, that type of thing. But I know what you're saying about any political figure at the moment could be divisive. My personal opinion on Farage is, I'm sorry, I think he's poison. Some of the things Sunderland stand for at the moment, community and multiculturalism and all of that, I don't want him weaponizing those things for his personal means. And I don't think we can equate this to the negative influences at some other clubs. I don't think it's on that level, but it could still potentially be dangerous. I don't want Sunderland dragged into that. It's important that you say as well, we don't know the facts yet. This isn't the first time football clubs have been used in these types of stories, and then it turns out that what we're led to believe isn't quite what happened. So we don't know the full facts, but yeah, I want him to have nothing to do with the club if I had my way, and just grifters like him. Aye. For me, not for everyone, I'm just talking for me. He can do one.
Well,
We've had this in
I
the
wasn't
past, haven't we?
necessarily going to. I was going to say I wasn't going to comment on this, but I think from a club perspective, because we are Sunderland fans, right? I think it makes no sense for a football club to align themselves politically with any party, because a party, I mean, I think Reform are polling at 28%. So if we just say that 28% of Sunderland fans are Reform, that means 72% are not Reform. And you're, by aligning yourself with any party, you are going to annoy the majority that don't support that party. And we are a business that needs to make money, that needs to sell tickets, that needs to sell merchandise, that needs to do all these things to get better and better on the field. And aligning yourself politically with anyone is detrimental to that, because what will happen is if you have somebody who does not like Reform and is thinking about maybe going to the game at the weekend when Sunderland play Newcastle in the ladies' game, and goes, do you know what? I don't want to do that because that club's aligning themselves with that. That's costing the club money, irrespective of politics, of whether or not you support Reform or not. You have to look at it from a Sunderland perspective. And is the decision, if it's true, to invite Nigel Farage good for Sunderland Football Club? And the answer to that, the same as if they invited Keir Starmer or Ed Davey or Zach Polanski, any of the Kemi Badenoch, the other one. The same thing. If you invite them in, you are hurting Sunderland as a business, which is why, firmly, that's why I think this is a silly idea. I don't think going into whether or not Farage is good or bad is really even that much of the point. The point is that you are going to alienate a section of your fan base for no reason whatsoever, because there was no reason for Sunderland to align themselves with anyone politically. This has come because Juan Sartori is aligned with Farage because he's on the right side of the right wing, in Uruguay. That's why this has come across, and this is why this has happened. The club shouldn't be weaponized as a political tool for anyone, and it just will cost the club in the long term with bad PR. I imagine Oscar Chamberlain, who runs the club's media, was pulling his hair out when the story came out. He would be like, why on earth has this happened? Because it's just created a headache, and it means we're talking about politics, which we never want to talk about politics on a football podcast, because nobody ultimately wants to talk about politics generally for that reason. So I just think it's a PR own goal. Take away the politics of it. It just is an own goal, because it'll alienate sections of the fan base and cost the club money.
Yeah, we've been here before. I think when, I guess Sartori was part of the ownership group that did this, but the Tory party were allowed to host a conference at the Stadium of Light, weren't they, during the Methven and Donald era, and that caused a big stink.
That's a little bit different though, because it would have paid money at least. If you're going to make money off it and they're just using it as a venue, I think that's very different to inviting somebody in as a special guest of the club.
It's happened this week with Ipswich, hasn't it? So I think they try to allow it to go under the radar, and I think the Athletic were the ones who basically bust the story, and you just saw a raft of really negative PR towards Ipswich as a result. And like you say, Connor, doesn't matter who to me, it doesn't matter who it is. There is nothing to be gained from anything like that. I'm hoping it was just because I actually watched the interview, or the section of the interview, and it's because Reform have just had a big conference or rally or whatever at the Rainton Arena in Horton this week. So he was in the area, and the person interviewing him said, "Oh, you're going to get yourself along to a Sunderland game?" And I presume it was just like a throwaway sort of like thing to chuck in there. And Farage mentioned that he'd been talking to a director. I'm going to get there before the end of the season. I would hazard a guess he won't. He probably won't. And if it was on the cards, I would think, given the negative reaction that the story's got in the main, it hasn't all been negative. There will be people heard that about Farage and went, yeah, I would love him to see him at Sunderland. But it seems to me that there's been quite a negative reaction to this. And as a result of that, I would imagine the club would probably put a stop to it. Because, as you say, there's nothing to be gained from this at all. I don't care about any politician being involved with my club. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't benefit us in any way whatsoever.
I think that is an important distinction to make, that, yeah, if this is to be believed, this isn't a formal invite by Sunderland AFC. It's a potential invite by somebody who happens to have an involvement with SAFC, which it might sound like I'm splitting hairs there. They're two different things. I appreciate what you're saying, gents, about politics has nothing to do with football. But football is a huge part of British life, and politics has an involvement in all aspects of life. And yeah, there will be times Sunderland have to speak to local authorities. They have to deal with politicians. This one sounds like this wasn't if this was to be true, it wasn't necessarily to discuss things or anything. It was more of a PR thing. And I think that's why people are perhaps, the majority of people are a bit more concerned about this one.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what comes of it. I don't think anything will, though. Most politicians just talk shite anyway, so I doubt he'd be anywhere near Sunderland. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Anyways, we spent more than I want to do on that, but there we go. I think it was important to mention it, and anybody listening who was offended by anything we said there, I mean, I think we were very clear there. Personal opinion, and above all else, we just love Sunderland. All I'm ever bothered about is the best thing for the club. But regardless of who it is, what their political alignment is, like, we had David Miliband, didn't we, as a non-executive director in the past. I was probably a little bit less dialed into politics back then, but I would have probably felt the same. Just not bothered about politicians being involved with football. But I agree completely with what you said, Andrew. Politics and football do mix, and they do. It's a thing, we could sit here all day listing examples of where politics have bled into football and probably haven't kicked up as much of a fuss. I think it is something that is there, but my personal feeling is I just don't want politicians near my club and to further their own gains, which is all this would be in this case. It would be if Starmer or whoever else turned up to a game, they would only be there to get pictures taken of them. And we've seen that in the past as well. We've seen that in the past with prime ministers. David Cameron was always at Villa's ground, wasn't he? But didn't know the first thing about football. I'm not a fan of it. Anyways, slightly more positive matters, and this won't have escaped either of you, I wouldn't have thought. Ronaldinho and friends coming to the Stadium of Light in May. There's a game taking place on, I think it's Bank Holiday Monday, isn't it? And there will be a team led by Ronaldinho taking on a team led by Jermaine Defoe with his UK Icons team. And apparently also playing will be Jibril Cisse, Kleberson, he played for Man U, didn't he? I think. Aurelio Gomez, former Manchester United fullbacks Fabio and Rafael. Got good memories of one of them in particular, missing a penalty against us in the semis of the League Cup. Fernando and Anderson, I'm sure there'll be other names announced close at the time. But Andrew, we were talking the other day, weren't we, about with Councillor Kevin Johnson, which people want to listen to that, just talking about things which are going on in the city coming up and how it links back to the football club. We were talking about big events coming to the area. This is another one, another big event coming, and might not be for everybody, but it's going to bring people into the stadium. It's going to bring one of the greatest footballers to ever walk the planet to the Stadium of Light. And I know he's old now, but I can't pass up the opportunity to see Ronaldinho. I've never seen him in person. Even if I get to see him do a couple of tricks, that'll do me. But I am actually looking forward to this.
Well, yeah, I think it has caught a few people's imagination already, and what a weekend that's going to be. Because if I've got my dates correct, I think it's the Radio 1 event that weekend. I think it's the final game of the Premier League season, and then there's this Ronaldinho thing. And like you say, the club, the city have obviously got a good reputation for putting on events now. It's amazing that somebody of his standing in the game has heard of Sunderland and gone, yeah, I'm happy to put my name to it. I'm happy to be part of that. It's mad as well that we've gone from one breath talking about like a political leader to then one of the biggest names in football. Everybody wants a piece of Sunderland at the moment, man. Everybody's queuing up to come to the stadium. So yeah, you can't complain. It's going to bring business. It's going to bring attention. I assume the club will either get like a fee for renting the stadium or maybe take a cut of the profits, so it'll make sense business-wise. And why not? Why not?
Exactly.
Those who'll go, who'll enjoy it. They'll love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to go, Connor, or not?
No, it doesn't tickle my pickle. No. I mean, also the ticket prices are quite expensive, £25 for like a, or maybe I'm just getting myself, maybe I'm
No,
on
you're right.
prices.
Yeah. 25 quid.
No, I just mean it's
concessions
£25 expensive in this day and age. I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe but yeah, I don't know. I remember I went to John Cook's testimonial a few years ago, and while it was a good day out on the drink and stuff, the quality of football is not the greatest. So
you're not going to watch the quality of football, like, but you could see in the Defoe volley, and you could see Ronaldinho do a rainbow flick over someone's head. It's a nostalgia factor, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen Ronaldinho play, so maybe if maybe on the day, if somebody asks us on the Monday and I've got nothing on, maybe I would go, but I'm not going to plan to go.
Yeah, and tickets are available, I think, from the club's ticketing website if anyone wants to go to that. But yeah, I just it's really got me curiosity, the fact that Ronaldinho's playing. No one might look to buy tickets and be injured or something.
I want to know how many people will go. Like, I don't know what to expect, whether it'll be like 10,000 people or if it'll be like full. I don't know what the interest will be. Like, I cannot put my finger on. Pick my finger on it, because kids might be interested, but if you're 10, you won't really remember Ronaldinho, will you? Like, you'd have to be at least probably 25 to actually remember Ronaldinho at his peak.
Yeah, I think for local interest, you probably need to fill that Defoe team up with ex-Sunderland players, don't you?
I was just going to say, though, is it local interest or is it going to be like the uni students and people from the wider northeast area thinking, wow, Ronaldinho, one of the biggest names ever? So, yeah, it might be a very different crowd to the one that turns up on the Sunday to watch us play Chelsea. Yeah. I mean, listen, yeah, I doubt, I'm like Connor, I doubt I'll be going. But my eldest, she's bang up for it. I think her and her mates are going to go. So, yeah, we'll see.
There was a few other little bits and pieces going on, which we'll probably not get to because we've already gone on for an hour. But good luck to the lads who've headed off on loan this week. I think Elias Lenz, I can't remember who the other players were now.
Finley Holcroft and Charlie Dinsdale.
Yeah, and Dinsdale's a really good player. So I'm interested to see how he does. I know Andy, who does our player ratings on the website, Andy's a massive fan of him. He watches a lot of the 21s football. So, yeah, good luck to them lads out on loan. Good luck to everyone playing international football. I pray they all come back in one bit. That's the main thing for me. Like, international footy can be a pain in the arse, but it's also really rewarding for the players. We know the good thing about Sunderland is we don't have a regime here where they kind of frown upon the international football. I know sometimes we might be like, oh, why have they got to go and play? But the players love it, and it's a big part of their careers, and the club kind of embrace that, don't they? It's kind of, you've got to, really, if you want to bring really good footballers to your club, you've got to accept they're going to play for the country, particularly with the World Cup coming up. So, yeah, let's cross our fingers and hope that everyone returns in one piece. Just leaves me to say thank you very much, chaps. Been great catching up, Connor. Enjoyed it, mate. Where can people catch your stuff if they want to watch more Connor Bromley stuff? You're all over YouTube, aren't you?
I was going to say, just type my name into YouTube, or just type in Sunderland into YouTube, and I'll probably appear somewhere. But yeah, I'm just doing all sorts of, not quite as much. I don't think I'm daily like you guys. I mean, have you missed a day yet of the way the podcast is every day since you launched? Like last, when did you launch? April or something?
It was the end of March, so it was we've just hit our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah. I feel like you've literally hit every day. I certainly think when I always open my podcast provider, I am hearing Andrew Smithson normally. I think you must have the most appearances, Andrew, I'm guessing.
Oh, wait till you see our schedule for the next week and a half leading up to the international break. I don't think there's an episode without you, Andrew, is there?
I am. I think I'm pushing Jimmy Montgomery for the most appearances.
Yeah.
I want to stand named after us at this rate.
I'll name my mic after you. Well, it used to be, but it was always Johnny Hall. He was the podcast hall, but since we've been promoted, the championship podcasts have left him alone, and he's not as everywhere, is he?
Yeah. He's on the sports one, wasn't he? All the time.
Yeah.
That's where I used to see him.
Yeah, but since we've kind of mentioned it there, Andrew, you guys have got plenty of stuff pre-recorded, haven't you, leading up to the week of the Spurs game, and it's looks like there's a lot of fun going on. I mean, we've got some specials lined up coming up over I think we've got Sunday and Monday. We've got the top 10 derby games, part 1 and 2, which you, Chris, and Ant recorded. I mean, I bet that was good fun going back through all of them.
Yeah, good fun. I mean, like you say, there's all sorts of episodes, and now they're all kind of merging into one. The problem is, I never realised this about myself. I obviously like the sound of my own voice, but it's listen, it's good fun, and anytime we're talking about Sunderland, you enjoy it. Yeah, Ant was great on that one, and there's a couple that Johnny's been on, and we're just making the most of the international break. And
what was number one? Sunderland. Was it the 5-0 Pride Park?
Don't spoil it.
Was that the number
we
one?
Can't spoil it.
I'm not giving anything away.
Oh,
but partially because I can't remember things, but partially because it'll spoil it for the.
Did you say the 5-1 there, Connor? That was a bit cheeky.
No, I said the 5-0 at Pride Park because you said top 10 derby games. You see,
very
joke. A derby county joke.
Connor, it's too late, man. My brain's not functioning properly.
It's a Saturday morning. What are you talking about? Too late?
Yeah, true. We've also got on this week coming up on Monday, I think, or Tuesday. I'm trying to work what day is the 31st. What day is the 31st?
That's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. So we've got on this week on Tuesday, we've got a 2-parter Room 101, which I know Martin was absolutely dying to get on because of his list of things to whinge about. So they're always good fun. People basically whinging about the things they hate the most about football, and then Chris deciding whether it's worthy of going into Room 101. We've got a special lined up, best moments of the last 12 months. Obviously, there's been so many really great moments. So another chance to relive a brilliant year. A debate on VAR. There's more Room 101 stuff. I mean, there's literally loads in the bank. So we've got you covered from all angles. If there's any massive news kicks off in the world of Sunderland, which hopefully there won't be because I'm going to enjoy a few days off from podcasting. But if anything big kicks off, we will probably drop a special in the middle of all of that as well. So yes, as we lead up to that Spurs game, we're going to keep you covered. We've got a pod every single day. People can't get enough of Sunderland at the minute, so we've got to keep talking about it. Yes, thank you very much, Connor. Been a pleasure, mate. Cheers, Andrew.
Lovely, thanks.
Yeah, and thank you to the listeners. We'll see you on the next one.